Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
All right, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. I am the executive producer of this fine show, Andrew Kolvet. And today is the day. We have waited long enough to confront some of the lies, the out-of-context clips, the cherry-picking of quotes that people are, mostly on the left, are using to smear the legacy and the memory of our brother and our friend, Charlie Kirk. And it is incredibly apropos that joining me today, wide shot please, is our Thought Crime crew, because most of the clips that ultimately surfaced came on the show called Thought Crime, which we would do every Thursday night, and that would be with Jack. It would be 4 of the 5. It would be Jack Posobiec, Tyler Bowyer, Blake Neff, Charlie Kirk, and me. I was sort of a fill-in. I was happy to be that. Tyler and I would usually rotate. And the whole premise of the show was to talk about the verboten. The verboten. And as soon as we started doing the show, we realized that, you know, you're not allowed to have fun anymore in America in 2024 at the time. Most of these clips came out because Charlie had become so big. Yeah, well, we had a lot of fun, actually. But Charlie had become so big that he was looked at as an appendage of the Trump campaign. And so if Charlie ever said anything that, you know, wasn't actually on, like, the policy platform, for example, of the Trump campaign, the Trump campaign would get calls, and then we'd get calls, and then everybody was getting calls. And so it was one of those interesting dynamics that actually, in a weird backhanded way, shows just how huge he had become, especially in the campaign season of 2024. So, yeah.
And you know, I think something that we can really just all say, and I think we would all agree on, and Charlie would agree too, just at the outset, is this is all Andrew's fault. Yes. I think if I do seem to be a repeat offender in these clips, but listen, I didn't want to give any air to this stuff, especially in the immediate aftermath. But you know, I think, you know, we are at two weeks and 1 day after it happened. What a whirlwind it's been. I don't think it was worth giving any oxygen to the haters, mostly on the left, because they were upset that Charlie was getting essentially canonized before their eyes. And he was their ideological opponent. There's no doubt about that. And so, you know, but I feel like now's the time. But you even had instances where, like, Barack Obama, like the leader of the Democrat Party, if you had to pick one man who's the public leader of the party, it's Barack Obama. He couldn't even say Charlie's name without sort of going through this litany of, but I disagree on this, and I disagree on this, and he, like, all of the topics that he mentioned, I think we played the clip the other day, we should probably pull that up, were from Thought Crime. And it's like kind of existential in a sense that stuff that from our Thursday night podcast is now coming off the lips of Barack Obama. But at the same time, he's doing so to impugn and smear and demonize, even in death, our friend Charlie Kirk.
Well, I was going to say,
and that can't stand.
Existential, because it was like the devil himself, like, having to say the word Charlie Kirk. You could see him, like, melting a little bit. It was like the Wicked Witch. Is like every time that he had to say the word Charlie Kirk, you could almost see.
Well, do you notice Hillary couldn't say the word? Hillary, when she went on MSNBC yesterday, she couldn't say the word Christian. Oh yeah. She said she was like, white males of a certain religion.
Yeah, she could start like a far right podcast or something.
Like she couldn't say the word of Christ. Just saying.
So I just think it's apropos that you guys are here. I'm excited to do this. A lot of you have online. I've seen the comments, have been wanting us to do this, and I just didn't feel like it was the time, but now it's the time. And I don't think we need to belabor these points, but for years on end or something. But I think it's important to give a vociferous and forceful rebuttal. So here I want to start with my favorite one, and that is about DEI pilots. Do you think it's safe to say, Tyler, that the DEI pilots clip was the most viral thing that Charlie had ever been associated with? And it wasn't like, it was wildly misunderstood, but do you think at that point it was probably the biggest clip of Charlie that had spread?
100%. And here's, I wanted to piggyback on what we were saying before. A lot of Andrew got the brunt of a lot of this stuff because
deservingly
he was saying things that, again, the whole premise and setup of thought crime and a lot of the conversations that we had was Charlie was quarterbacking, and then we were the ones, kind of feeding into it.
Well, yeah. I apologize for nothing.
And Charlie would kind of cue it up, and then Andrew would lean in on it, but make no mistake, these were conversations that were being had in the background.
Of course.
And that's important.
By the way, what's amazing is I was only a part of about 50% of the thought crimes. So just imagine how much more defending of Charlie we'd have to do.
Whoa. Andrew was in the background of every show, every conversation, even if he wasn't on there. No, you're not getting out of this. You're not getting out of this.
All right.
He's like, he stepped back from the bonfire, and he was the guy holding the kindling.
Every episode.
And the gasoline.
All right. But
I think I blame Blake.
Yeah. Let's get into it because we've been telling you.
Drive. Blake's going to kind of drive today.
We blame Blake for enough.
Yes.
He's not getting blamed for this.
So I want to get blamed for this one. Anyway, so the clip that's getting passed around a lot, this is one of the ones that popped up the most, is people get really mad about what Charlie says about black pilots. So let's just start with the original clip. Let's do clip 168.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now thinking about that.
You want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created. Now, that last part is really important.
Gotta go thought crime.
Like, obviously, they're doing this thing where they just act like we just came in and we're just like, we care about the skin color of who flies planes. No, Charlie doesn't want to care about that. The left wants to care about that. So here's an important piece of context that this is basically what we were reacting to. This is a clip of United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby making a pretty intense commitment to hitting diversity quotas at his airline. Let's play clip 200.
How is diversity and diversity targets working into the Aviate Academy?
We have committed that 50% of the class of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
All right. So can I just jump in here really quick? This is incredibly important. So that is the clip Charlie and I and everybody was responding to. That right now they had 19% women and people of color in their pilot corps. They wanted to get it up to 50% for every new pilot corps. Why is that a really dumb thing to do? First of all, meritocracy. Charlie believed in meritocracy. Let the best man or woman win. Second of all, Jack, riddle me this. Do you know what percentage of new pilots that are training to be pilots, whether that's just getting their pilot's license or trying to go into an academy of some sort to become a professional pilot, do you know what percentage are women or people of color?
Is that 13%?
It's about 9%.
13%. That's a different statistic.
Yeah, it's 9%. It's 9%. So that means that you're essentially trying to fill 50% of the spots from 9% of the population of the.
Well, you're saying not qualified, just training.
Just trained. So these are people. People who want to be a new pilot.
Basically, like getting their hours, going through.
90% are white males. It just happens to be one of those professions where white males go to a lot. So Charlie was making the point that if you are going to pull 50% of your pilots from 9 or 10% of the population of new pilots, then you're going to have to do something that is not in favor of meritocracy. You're going to have to lower your standards to get them on.
Standards.
So he said that if you impose this quota, then I'm going to start asking questions, boy, I hope you're qualified. And he said, I never did that before, and I don't want to do it in the future. More when we get back right here on The Charlie Kirk Show.
All right.
Yep.
So let's
Go ahead,
we'll just continue along.
Well, because he gives a
yeah, he
fuller
does. So
yeah.
we'll continue along here. So Charlie himself offered some clarification on the pilot thing. I can't remember off the top of my head if this is the same day or later, but let's play clip 169.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now thinking about that.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
So you guys piggybacked off of me because you knew what I was saying. Because what I was saying is that DEI creates and fosters sinful, unwholesome thought patterns, because when they say we're going to hire people based on race and not competency, and so you start to just say, you know, what's going on here? Blake, you're part of this. This has gone so viral.
It's like I said.
22 million people have seen it on Twitter
It's what I said at the end. This is the reality the left has created, that they crave. Okay, I didn't realize it would repeat the whole first clip there.
Blake, why did you do this, Blake?
Yeah, he was definitely trying to get
Blake
in the.
No, which, by the way, it's like so much of what thought crime and even what we do on the regular shows is, guys, we live in clown world, okay? We are describing the clowns.
Yeah,
right? That's what we're doing
100%
every day.
It is just straight, like, and it really, the most obvious way to put it is just like, look, you guys can hire for diversity or you can hire for merit. Those are mutually exclusive options,
And
period.
By the way, Charlie was not saying that he looked at a black pilot currently and thought those things. He said he didn't. He said, but if in the future you do X and Y and Z to hire based on some other feature, immutable characteristic that is not linked to your ability to do the job, then I'm going to start asking questions.
What they're doing is they're taking Charlie's clip and they're removing all the context of what's going on and the situation that he's commenting on, and that's what you'll see throughout every single one of these. Things.
We actually have another clip from Charlie that more straightforwardly defends it. Let's play clip 204.
All right, let me tell you exactly what I said,
Sure,
okay?
thank you.
So this was in response, first and foremost, to United Airlines saying that half of all their new pilots that they're going to hire are going to be women or people of color. Currently, they're 15%. Okay. So they want to go from 15% to 50%. A conversation then ensued about how every time affirmative action is employed, standards have to be lowered. There's not a single instance where that does not occur. So then I said, boy, if I see a black pilot, I'm now going to wonder, is that individual qualified, or were they selected because of their race? Comma, but that's not who I am, but this makes me think this way. And I stand completely by that statement. Okay. Secondly, let me just finish.
Sure, yeah, sorry.
DEI and affirmative action, what it does is it lowers the merit, it lowers the threshold of standards, and increases things that do not matter, such as skin color and ethnic background.
That last part is so key. He's saying, look, if you guys, like, again, you can hire merit or you can hire for a quota for DEI. You can consider things like skin color and ethnic and national background important. And if you consider those things important, if you put them on the scales, definitionally, it is impossible that you will not lower the overall standards of the people that you are making into pilots. And it doesn't just have to be pilots. I think that's the example that stands out, where a really incompetent person can just crash a plane and kill everyone on it. But there's other things. Surgeons, medicine. Like, if you want to check med school admissions, MCAT, that's a test you have to take. And we've historically had a lot of affirmative action in med school admissions. So Asians are scoring higher than other people. They're scoring higher than whites. And then, you know, black med school applicants are getting lower MCAT scores, and they're getting into medical school with lower MCAT scores. Yep. And this isn't because the MCAT is like a racist test. It's a measure of ability, and people are coming out different on that measure of ability. And that's having ramifications at the end of things.
Yeah, like, for example, like we you know, so Blake is a DEI hire, you know, and
bald quota.
People don't, because he's bald, and he's also 1% Inuit. We don't talk about it very much, but sometimes he looks at dog sleds a little bit too long. And you know, I'm like, Blake, what's going on? He's like, they're calling me.
But Blake is not Inuit as far as are you in? No. Okay. No. Anyway, so I would just say
Blake,
this feels like a very open and shut case, because They just wanted black people to think Charlie didn't think they could fly planes. That's not
what he said.
He said.
The core of everything was that this is corporate sabotage, and it doesn't matter who they were talking about. They could have said that Chiquita banana eaters are the only people that will hire.
Yes.
It wouldn't have mattered what the topic
It's
was.
either
It was
merit,
corporate sabotage.
It's either merit or it's a quota. You cannot have both. And we stand by Charlie in that statement. I think we're ready for the next one. We'll be right back. We're going to welcome radio.
We'll do this.
All right. Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. We are joined by the Thought Crime crew, and we are debunking the lies and the smears of Charlie, taking him out of context posthumously, which is pretty sick, actually. And we didn't want to get to this too soon because there's so much good that Charlie said and did that it just so outshadowed this stuff. But every dog has his day, and I am like, dog with a bone on this stuff because I was there for it, and I saw it, and I knew the discussion that led up to it. Go ahead.
Before we even go any further, right, there'd be so many times where we'd be commenting on things that were going on in society, but we weren't actually giving our prescriptions for society. And if you go through that, Charlie obviously spends a lot of time talking about clown world, and he's describing the clowns and the clownish behavior that's going on, corporate America, et cetera. But when you actually find the thread that Charlie always pushed for was a colorblind society.
Correct.
A colorblind society that said, let the best person be the one who gets the job, be the one who gets the votes, be the one who gets to be in leadership, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. A colorblind society with standards that are applied equally across the board. So if you want to say that's equality, right? Yeah, we want equality of standards.
Well, yeah, and if you think about, and Blake, you could probably remember the quote better, but Charlie loved this quote. I think it was one of the Weinstein brothers that said it, but maybe they were quoting somebody else. Anyways, if you want to know the God of the age, just you ask yourself, what are you not allowed to critique? And
the line is attributed to Voltaire. It is not from Voltaire, but it's.
But I think one of the brothers did say it recently.
But anyways, the point is, Charlie was fearless on the modern God, the idol of DEI, and pulling the race card and all of this stuff. Charlie, if you can't, maybe you can see it over Jack's shoulder, but we have he put up, this is his wall. Like he picked these pictures. I think his head's getting cut off. That's Clarence Thomas over Jack's shoulder. Charlie loves Clarence Thomas. Dr. Ben Carson. These are people, Charlie was not racist, did not have a racist bone in his body. If you're good at what you do, he loved it. If you were a good family man, if you were a good father, he loved you and he supported you. And I know he's got so many friends in the black community that defend him vociferously online, and I love that. But just as somebody who can tell you, from very up close and personal, there was not a racist bone in his body. He was often accused of it because so much of our modern society is oriented around what came out of the civil rights era. So this is the new founding, this Christopher Caldwell prescription of a new founding of America after the 1960s, in which we had, basically, if you're a modern American, you have more reverence for the Civil Rights Act than you do for the Constitution. Charlie thought that was a problem. It wasn't that he didn't like a lot of what the Civil Rights Act accomplished, or at least set out to accomplish. It's that there was overreach that happened, and there was a new founding of America that was extra constitutional.
But I would even go so far as to say that I agree with Caldwell and I agree with the left on this, and I think Charlie would too, in the sense that it was sort of a new founding of America because there were new standards that perhaps weren't intended, but that superseded the constitutional founding of America.
Yes, and so Charlie was fearless in his critiques of this because he saw it as a core rot of modern American culture, and that if we were going to get back to a colorblind society, a meritocracy, a culture that was oriented around excellence and achieving great things and dreaming big dreams, that we couldn't, it's like that verse that I posted on X yesterday, like you have to throw off all that's hindering you. You have to throw off everything that's slowing you down if you're going to run your race well. And Charlie was such a pragmatist and such an efficiency oriented person that he knew that this stuff was holding our country back. And so he knew that he uniquely was suited as the exact person not to talk about it, to sort of crush the idols in the temple and in the high places and go for this stuff. And yeah, he took a lot of slings and arrows, but in my opinion, looking back, this is some of the stuff I respect him most for.
But you look, too, at I keep coming back to that Hillary Clinton clip yesterday on MSNBC, where even in the wake of all of this, she goes up on MSNBC and...
Do we have this clip?
And she, what is she saying? She's saying, we remember, the target must be white Christian men. Remember, white Christian men are the ones who cannot be allowed to be in leadership positions. And like,
she says
almost, yeah. It's disgusting. And like Charlie Kirk. Just like Charlie Kirk. Why don't you just say it, Hillary?
Well, and he knew that he was at the vanguard of this stuff, and that he was a representative for an entire generation of the lost boys of the West that had been disenfranchised by their own political leaders. They had been tossed aside by a political establishment and a zeitgeist that vilified them, demonized them, and wanted to toss them aside. When this is their country, too. This is where they were born. This is what they've inherited. And we were breaking the social compact with an entire generation of young men. And I like to think that Charlie gave, when you start seeing these polls about who's coming, who's voting for Trump, young men wanting to get married, young men wanting to have families, and young men wanting to go back to church, it's because Charlie went straight at the idols of the age and he crushed them on behalf of us all. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back here for the stream. Blake, why don't you take us to the next debunking?
So it's not even so much a debunking. A lot of this is like just, you need to have explanations and like more context. So this is the one that went most viral right after it happened. You would see like headlines where people would post this, and it was Charlie saying, that gun deaths were worth it to keep the Second Amendment. That's what they would say. It was like, unfortunately worth it is the exact quote they would have. There's like a million examples of that. I just shared one if they want to put it up. But people would post those to like dunk on Charlie and be like, bet he would change his mind now. And this one really disgusts me quite a bit, actually, because it's not so much a lie about what Charlie said. It's attacking him for actually daring to discuss a public issue the correct and honest way. So we have a full quote from Charlie on this. I can't remember where he said it, but it's clip 175. Let's just play it.
So we need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. Right. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, by having more armed guards in front of schools. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. Wow. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
So this is what makes me so angry about it. And there's even stuff in an even longer version. Before he says that, he talks about, I'll read this quote directly. He says, the Second Amendment is there so that you can defend yourself against a tyrannical government. If that talk scares you, wow, that's radical, Charlie. I don't know about that. Well, then you have not read any of the literature of our founding fathers. And you haven't read any 20th century history. And then he continues, we must be real. We must be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price. That is a part of liberty. He gives the example, driving comes with a price. 50,000 people die on the road every year. That is a price. You could get rid of driving, have 50,000 fewer auto fatalities. But we have decided that the benefit of driving, speed, accessibility, mobility, having products, services, is worth that cost. And then he goes, that part we saw. And it just disgusts me so much that people are dunking on Charlie over this when he's doing what any reasonable leader, a figure showing leadership should do, which is evaluating the honest costs and benefits of a policy. There are so many scammer politicians and public figures who will say there's only benefits or only downsides to a policy. They'll say, oh, it's all upside, and people are opposed to this just because they're haters or corrupt. Charlie would actually come out and say, the Second Amendment has downsides. We have more guns. There is more gun violence in America than there is in the UK. There's more gun violence here than there is in China. But we have it for other reasons. We have it because we are free citizens, and that helps us remain free citizens. And then I got so angry when I was seeing
and
these
not to mention,
jerkwads
you know, there was one of the stats we were talking about as Trump was cleaning up D.C. was that there had been essentially about 1,200 murders in D.C. since 2018, right? 1,200 murders. It was a very murderous place.
Very murdery.
Very murdery. And guess how many of them were white?
The victims?
How many white murders there were since 2018?
No, the victims or the suspects?
The victims. 11.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
Most of that
Low.
gun death is happening because of gang crime and black-on-black violence. And Charlie was very honest about that fact. Now, obviously, Charlie's own murder is something completely and entirely different. This is a political assassination where Charlie was murdered because of what he said and what he believed and how effective he was and because of his Christian faith. But what Charlie was getting at was that there is a cost to every freedom that we have. There is a cost to having alcohol on the shelves. There's a cost to having licenses in people's pockets to drive cars. Go ahead.
Well, just before we go to break, I would even go so far as to say that even in the sense that Charlie could comment on this, he still wouldn't be for gun bans. He still wouldn't be.
No.
There's no, and we all know that.
No question.
No question.
Yeah, I mean,
it wouldn't even be on the table.
Yeah.
No.
And so I totally agree. This is a really
He didn't call for it after Trump got shot.
It's a really sick one.
And if it would happen to any of us, he would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
And we would all agree on the same.
Yes.
issue.
Honestly, he might have even managed to laugh about it. He would have been like,
Probably.
yeah, and just be like, well, yeah, they kind of got me on that one.
Well, I hope. Gosh, I don't. There's not
But
a
he
laughing
wouldn't-
matter, but it's.
I get what you mean. But
Yeah,
he wouldn't have.
no.
He wouldn't have changed his position. No way.
No, not in the slightest.
So we are going to welcome back radio and go on to the next one. But that I'm with you. That one's really gross. We'll be right back.
Please check your TDS, CRT, DEI, and LGBTQIA plus at the door. The only letters we care about are USA.
All right. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good.
just put that out.
Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. This is Andrew Kolvet, executive producer of this show, with Blake Neff, Jack Posobiec, and Tyler Bowyer. Jack, you had a good idea. I think we should go to sort of some of the breaking news around the ICE shooter in Texas yesterday.
Well, so we do have breaking news, just in the sense that it just happened, but also it pertains to exactly what we're talking about right now on the program regarding the Second Amendment. So this is from the Post Millennial. Breaking: the Dallas ICE shooter conducted searches for ballistics and the phrase "Charlie Kirk shot video," and planned to, quote, give ICE agents real terror. So this is coming from Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, that it seems like it's shaping up that Joshua John, I think is how you pronounce it, was a copycat of the Charlie Kirk assassin. And he specifically conducted searches of Charlie Kirk's assassination before he conducted this attack on an ICE facility in Dallas.
I mean, which shows the interconnectivity between all of this leftist rhetoric that's happening. I mean, the in your face is that all of the pro-trans, anti-ICE, pro-BLM, I mean, we're seeing nothing but trickle-down violence that's been there for years. And this isn't new. We've seen this since 2020.
No, and it's high time for the federal and state authorities to just start doing something about it. We need action.
Well, and I think this is actually, I cannot get this image out of my head. Go play, show image 141. This is about political violence. And if you notice on the left, that is...
That's what we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday.
With,
but
Tom Homan.
it's worth reiterating because both Charlie's assassin, this ICE shooter, the same with the Catholic school shooter in Minneapolis, these are young progressive men in that 18 to 39 cohort. And look at that. A whopping 30% believe that it's justified at times to resort to violence to achieve political goals.
Conservatives are
young,
way below moderates.
Look at the node on this graph that would most correlate to Charlie's core audience, 18 to 39-year-olds, conservatives, are the lowest besides like 60-plus-year-old moderates. So is the most peaceful cohort is our audience. The most radical, violent cohort are the people on the left.
And what this actually shows is that the left is pulling the people in the middle towards violence, which I think is the most mind-blowing piece of this, is the moderates. Look at the moderates.
Yeah,
60
moderates
plus,
are ticking up too.
60 plus are the least violent, and moderates at 18 to 39 are being dragged towards violence because of how radical the left is.
Yeah.
Thomas Matthew Crooks, also 20 years old.
Yes. Yes. So they're
Same
getting
profile.
sucked down these little Discord chats and these 4chan chats. They're saying, I saw Mehdi Hassan say, oh, leftists don't get on, or I think he retweeted somebody, but he's like, leftists don't go on 4chan. I'm like, yes, they do.
Yes,
you obviously do not know.
No. They've been doing it for years now.
You obviously do not understand the world that a 20-year-old, especially white male, lives in.
Well, so 4chan has kind of evolved from where it was in 2016, where it was heavily, right dominated and like, just being there, where there have been these brigades and attacks, and there's leftists all over 4chan now. And so that's why it's just not the same as it used to be, as horrible as it is. Not that I've ever seen it myself, but people tell me that it's quite different now. But that being said,
wait, Danny makes a good point here. I want to make a point. He says the real data is even worse. This poll was taken after September 10th.
Yes.
So 30% said this after.
Well, we saw them celebrating.
Way higher
celebrating
before.
it.
It was actually way higher before. And it's also, and he makes another good point. Danny's the man. Charlie loved Danny. And he's such a great member of our team. He said, worth noting for this that a lot of these famous shootings are in gun-free zones.
Yes.
Too,
Yeah, I mean that.
But that's
I find that sort of silly. Like
I do want to add though.
It's worth noting.
Can I throw in this too? What really gets my goat about this thing too is that Operation Arctic Frost, which was investigating conservative organizations that have absolutely Turning Point in specific, that had no nonviolent tendency, or had all nonviolent tendencies, while the FBI could have been and should have been investigating and spending all their time and energy on the violence that emits from Antifa, from all the left-wing organizations, from these cells of young men on the left.
Increasingly, like one of the Antifa, I would say, evolutions is that you see this trans ideology now infused.
And we haven't spent that
trans-related
near enough time. We were planning all this week on talking a lot about Arctic Frost with Charlie our last 2 weeks. We haven't spent nearly enough time talking about all this, and that it's yet to come out.
Well, what is Arctic Frost for people in the audience that don't know?
This was what was unveiled right in that same week that Charlie was murdered, was that Turning Point USA was being investigated during the Biden administration by the FBI, tracking everything and anything that Turning Point was doing to basically make criminals out of a non-criminal organization.
And by the way, I was told, just for people that are wondering, that had been shut down immediately upon Cash getting control of the FBI.
Yeah.
So whatever that division was has been.
But that's the insanity of all this, is we don't even know all the information that's pertinent to that. But that's what our federal law enforcement agencies were doing, instead of going after the murderous, basically hidden gang violence in plain sight with mentally ill young men on the left and leftist organizations that are stoking this fire.
Yeah, and I do want to just say that one of the pieces that we see in this profile, it becomes a very sort of like, there's this weird talking point going on out there, and I saw Lindsey Graham saying that we should like censor the internet now and get rid of Blake, was it Section 302 or 203?
203.
Or no, 230.
230.
Gosh,
you fried my brain there. Section 230.
None of us have slept in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Section
Mom,
230.
if you text me one more time and say I look tired, I understand. That's my fault. My mom's just kidding. You look tired. You need a day off. I was like,
our moms must be coordinating because
I was like, yes, those are bags under my eyes. Yes,
but here's my point. Is the radicalization doesn't necessarily take place on Discord, because we've lived through waves of left-wing terrorism before in this country, the 60s and 70s, certainly in the early 1900s, the late 1800s. William McKinley, right? We had a president of the United States who was shot in Buffalo, New York, by a left-wing anarchist who walked up and shot him in 1901. That's how Teddy Roosevelt became our youngest president. And he didn't have Discord and video games. And yet I keep hearing these like DC Republicans say, oh, it's the video games and the Discords. That's what we have to go after. And it's like, no. It's an ideology.
I'm telling you,
it's an ideology that's driving all of this.
Yes, I believe this very firmly. That if I believe God was working through Charlie Kirk, both in life, but even he was leaving little Easter eggs for us right before his death, and Charlie was communicating these things. And he sent a text to Stephen Miller, and we've talked about it on the show, but it's worth reiterating now. And he said his last text to Stephen Miller was, we have to go after the networks that are financing and fomenting violence and radicalization. So there's a way to do that via RICO. Blake would know more about that than I would. But whatever that is, that's a piece of this, right? I don't think it's suppressing free speech. Charlie was a free speech absolutist, and it's not by calling things hate speech. What we do also is we have to bring young men back into a place of centeredness. This is why Charlie was so fixated on like building new homes, affordable new homes. He wanted a moonshot for new homes. We have to get young men to buy in and have skin in the game.
And how about also we stop demonizing young men as a society and blaming them for every problem that's in society, particularly young white men, where you're to blame for everything. It's your fault. You're the ones who are responsible for all of this. And Hillary Clinton, again, Hillary Clinton goes up on TV, and that's exactly what she said.
Isn't it so interesting that the demonization of young white men has resulted in the ignoring of the most mentally unhealthy young white men that are all on the left? I mean, truly, some of the outcomes that
it's like on the left. So on the right, it drives us to church. But on the left, it drives them to commit assassinations because they don't have God.
Well, and they have no one actually looking after them.
Yeah,
because when you try to subjugate an entire population of people, it doesn't matter who it is, in whatever culture, when you do that, what ends up happening is you have a pocket on your own side that just gets completely and blatantly ignored. And that's what they've done. They've essentially created this horribly radicalized system now of men who are completely ignored on the right, who have now been pushed toward God, and we're now picking up the pieces of that.
Thanks to Charlie.
And then the ones on the left that they're supposed to be responsible for, that they're doing absolutely zero for.
And by the way, if you are a white male who's on the left, because you don't have those characteristics that would allow you to be like part of their hierarchy, then it might drive you to commit more extreme acts to show your solidarity and loyalty to the revolution, because leftist politics is dependent not on skill, it's dependent on loyalty.
I love this topic, but it's not debunking the lies. But
we're doing like a thought crime again,
But here's the thing. So this is funny. Let's go ahead and show image 173. This is an easy one we can get through in the time we have remaining. This is a tweet commenting on CK going after saying that time Charlie Kirk called an Asian woman in the audience multiple times. Pardon my French, I'm just quoting. He made millions off of his racism and sexism.
Not visible here. That had 17 million.
Sunk.
Okay, thank you. And so I apologize for saying that. It was just in the tweet. Anyway, so the point is he didn't say it. Okay. This was actually funny. I remember this might have been the first event I met Erica at. Actually, she was with us. This was at Politicon in like 2018 or something like that. I forget, something like that. So let's go ahead and play the actual clip. Charlie hated when this thing went viral. It actually was funny. Later
hold on, we're almost at a.
Well, all right. We could have played it, but now we can't. Okay, so I'll do some more backstory here. This was Politicon. He was debating Hassan Piker on stage, and then the Young Turks started chirping at him from the audience.
Who is Hassan's boss?
Who's Hassan's boss? Yeah. But by the way, it's interesting to note that at the RNC, Charlie and talked about this moment, and I'll never forget, so Charlie actually went on their show, and he said, I live like a capitalist every day, and Charlie to at the RNC in 2024 then said, I don't even know. Like, what does that even mean? Charlie was like, I've grown up a lot since that moment. But we'll play the clip for the stream in just a sec. For radio, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Okay, so we're going to play the clip. This was, of all the Charlie moments, this went viral.
All right, we have to say something right now. It's jank.
I know, right?
Like a
jank.
J.
Okay.
That's where this all started.
Objection.
That's where it all started.
As an American, I should not be expected to know how to pronounce.
Right.
I know, but if you're going to do
a name, I can pronounce it.
Point of order. If you're having an event with someone, you should know how to pronounce.
We still didn't know. I actually saw jank back.
You're so right. I got Posobiec.
But yeah,
Jacek Posobiec.
Yeah. So here's the actual clip. Let's play it. 174.
Yeah, you're trying to attack me, which is ridiculous, like asking me what my salary is. Sure, I'll reveal it willingly.
You brought it up in context. I'm asking, why don't you live like a socialist?
Okay.
Go live like a socialist.
The point is larger than that, Charlie.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist,
hey,
okay? I live when I believe.
No.
What do? I get charity every single year.
Hold on.
What's my salary? Less than his.
Charlie,
take a seat. Come on, Cenk, let's go.
Charlie, what are you doing?
Take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho?
All right, no. Take a seat. You're going to take a seat. You're going to take a seat over here.
Oh, my God.
What's my salary?
All right.
Oh, ridiculous. All right, behave, everyone. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I practice what I preach, Cenk.
Charlie.
You do not practice what you preach.
Charlie.
I love this moment, Andrew.
So funny
because this was the first moment, and this was tennis shoes Charlie era. So this is when we were talking about this.
Those were actually Yeezys, or what was it?
Was he wearing the Yeezys there, or was he wearing the Adidas that we got?
I think that was the Yeezys.
The thought occurs to me that's kind of funny is Charlie always was very much like he would try to imitate successful people. So he'd use a lot of like Rush-isms because he's like, well, Rush is the most successful radio host. I should try to be like Rush. And now I'm thinking of when I saw that do you remember at the 2016, I think, was it the RNC? I think it was the RNC where Alex Jones, he went after.
I was literally standing next to them.
Exactly. I was there when it happened too.
When they crashed the
and
thing.
I can't help but wonder if like maybe Charlie was like, Alex Jones is really successful. I should get in a fight with Jim
all I remember is that this was the moment where, again, Charlie, this was the first time Charlie, and really one of the only times, truly, that Charlie went aggressive at somebody.
Yeah.
And it was actually so incredible. Like the entire office was buzzing that we had Turning Point for the next 2 weeks.
I walked out with him and Erica, and I think Sarah was with us.
It was Sarah.
No, but Erica was there at that event, and it was in Los Angeles down at the convention center. And we walked out, and all of these young guys were like, Charlie, Charlie. And then we were walking out. But it is funny when you think about this in the context of Charlie's, as he matured and grew, and then he would eventually end up going on the Young Turks broadcast from the RNC and sort of say, I don't even know what that meant, you know. And then we had Cenk, of course, at AmFest, which was like a big scandal that we would platform Cenk. But Cenk was actually, at the RNC, he was like, hey, listen, I vehemently disagree with you guys. I think you're wrong, but like, let's, he has this line like, let's have a beer after. And I kept thinking, Charlie doesn't drink, but
although I will say, if you notice that clip, you can hear how hoarse Charlie's throat is when he's doing that. That's where the mint tea comes from and the honey.
Yes, he started learning how to protect his voice.
Yes.
So I think we should take a quick break right there, and we will welcome back radio for the final segment of the hour. And Blake's going to pick our next clip to debunk, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.